Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. 3 men killed in police operation in Grange, Westmoreland. Opposition leader doubles down on criticisms of government's approach to crime. And later in sports, Michael Johnson hails Grand Slam Kingston stop a success. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shamela Pullen. Here are the details. 3 men were fatally shot during a police operation in Grange Hill, Westmoreland, Monday morning. According to reports, the police intercepted the men along the Top Lincoln Main Road around 4:30 a.m. A shootout followed and the men later died. Their identities have not been released. 2 firearms were recovered from the scene. One resident told TVJ News that the area is usually peaceful, and so the incident is a shock to the community.
I feel one way funny because I never hear we go say I yet. In them the type of way. So I have to feel away. So till me see what they go on and say, well, policeman have move, soldier man have move, but I'll know for right now I couldn't tell you what really happened down there. So.
When you hear the shot, you come off of your bed and get flat?
No man, when me lie down, see away from my bed. See away. I lie down, see away. The only time I wake up is when me hear the vehicle ever pass by Mrs. Well, a policeman.
Despite the country experiencing a decline in crime, opposition leader Mark Golding continues to criticize the government's approach to addressing the issue. Mr. Golding was a guest on TVJ Smile Jamaica Monday.
We went through 7, 8 years of focusing on what I'd call very hard policing solutions, things that states of emergency being used on a routine basis. We had multiple states of emergency over that period, very little to show for it in terms of reduced crime. And we were always saying to the government, look, that strategy doesn't deal with crime because it doesn't lead to any sustainable outcomes, prosecutions through investigations of offenses and so on.
Mr. Golding also reiterated that the state of emergency is ineffective, noting that the matter is still before the courts.
Yes, we need to give the police the tools that they need to do their job, so the numbers have to be brought up. And that has happened in the last couple of years, where we've seen, as a result of increased recruitment, we're seeing more police on the ground, and we're seeing the results of that. Also, we feel that there needs to be some legislative work done to give the police greater tools to investigate serious criminals. And we have a proposal which we put on the table for how we would address that. But apart from that, there's how do you deal with the root causes of crime? We have always believed in tailored social interventions that are necessary.
Managing Director of BPM Financial, Peter Rose Hall, warns of short-term stock market volatility due to the recent U.S. tariffs. Speaking on Radio Jamaica's That's a Wrap Sunday, she, however, offered reassurance of long-term stability. The new U.S. tariffs, which took effect on April 5, are anticipated to create notable shifts in market dynamics. Speaking on Radio Jamaica's That's a Wrap on Sunday, Peter Rose Hall, Managing Director of BPM Financial, explained that as countries and international companies adjust to the new tariffs, the U.S. stock markets will likely experience significant changes.
The first thing I think to recognize is that stock markets don't react well to uncertainty. Remember, when people buy a share in a company, they're really buying future. Where will this future price be down the road? And when you can't predict what's happening in terms of economies, and you can't project with any level of accuracy, then uncertainty sort of is the mood of the day.
Ms. Hall advised investors to remain cautious and adopt a long-term perspective when making investment decisions during this period of market volatility.
Most investors like to time markets. They like to jump out when there's volatility and jump in when they think the market is going to rise. But this is an interesting statistic. If you have missed the market 10 best days over the past 30 years, your returns would have been cut in half. And also, missing the best 30 days would have reduced your returns by an astonishing 83%. So there is danger in adopting a strategy of jumping out and jumping back in. Why? Because we don't know the exact right time to jump back in.
She also predicted that bond prices will likely rise in the short to medium term, driven by increased demand.
Bond prices, yields are being driven down because some people jump out of the market and then they buy bonds while they're waiting for volatility to subside. So the act of a whole group of people moving out of equity into bonds means that they drive the prices up of bonds and the yields down. So the yields are falling on bonds and the bonds are becoming more expensive because demand has increased.
Vendors at the Papine Market in St. Andrew are now benefiting from a newly renovated space. The project was done over a 3-week period. The upgrades at the Papine Market in St. Andrew include the repositioning of the garbage bay, painting of the market space, and sanitization efforts. Mayor of Kingston, Andrew Swaby, says the expansion was also done to accommodate more vendors.
If you notice that there are some areas right now that has not been occupied, so we do. You have to understand that there are times, even for Christmas time or seasonal time, when other persons come here just to shop at that season, and it exists now.
Of course, you're expecting vendors to maintain the cleanliness and stuff.
We're expecting vendors to maintain the cleanliness. We're expecting vendors to pay their market fees, because it's from their market fees that we can maintain the place. We'll be having many more conversations with them.
For years, the Papine Market has been in a deplorable condition, with its location right next to the University Hospital of the West Indies adding to the concern. However, the recent renovation has brought a significant change. Helma Thompson, Senior Director of Nursing at UHWI, who frequently shops at the market, says the renovation will now have a positive impact on both the market and the surrounding area.
Which was really not as it ought to have been. Usually have the spillover, the odors, and that affected person's passageway there. But now that I've come this morning and I've seen the new developments, that area has really been transformed. And within the inner components here, you have clear corridors, things are well laid out, and so persons are able to go appropriately about their business. So it is really a major improvement. And it is my hope that this will be sustained, because very often you have things happen, but then you do not have it sustained.
Meanwhile, vendors who once sold the produce on the streets are now inside the market.
I never want to come off of the street, but I'm telling you, I come in and this is a good change, a better change, because the market did need to fix. And I love to see how the market fix and look decent and nice. And I hope after a while, when we settle down, the people they might realize and come into the market and support us.
The thing nice, man, boy, without on the road for years, but me never know the coming in can so much successful and so much growth. Yeah, man, it's a blessing, man, it's a blessing.
And we go back to a previous story. The Lay Magistrates Association of Jamaica has expressed deep concern over the alarming number of fatal motor vehicle crashes since the start of the year and is offering help. The concerns were raised at the association's 40th anniversary church service in Mandeville on Sunday. Raquel Porter reports.
As of April 6, 2025, the country has recorded approximately 87 collisions and 99 fatalities. This marks an improvement compared to the same period last year, which saw 104 crashes and around 123 deaths. However, despite the progress, National President of the LMAJ, Trevor Heaven, emphasized that even one life lost is too many.
At the end of the day, casualties, death are very costly. One of the biggest challenge for us is for a collision of any sort, notwithstanding a casualty. But one of the biggest challenge for us is those persons who gets injured. It's a huge cost on the health system in our country, right? And in addition to that, if they break a leg, if they break an arm, the recovery period is significant. Some of them get paralyzed.
which is why the LMAJ has announced plans to collaborate with the National Road Safety Council in a bid to reduce the growing number of road fatalities.
We are very passionate about seeking to intervene in road safety to ensure that especially our young drivers are more cautious, that they do the necessary training, right, on road safety to ensure. And you know something, what they need to do is just obey the speed limit. If you obey the speed limit that are set, then chances of an accident or the response time is better, so that we don't have these kind of issues.
The association highlights the strain these accidents are having on the healthcare system and productivity.
Each person is productive in his or own right, or her own right. And as such, the failure to give of yourself productively is a charge or a failure on the country itself. A failure on the individual, a failure on their families, a failure in their community. And so we don't really cherish any kind of collision or accident of any sort.
President, also the loss of life of children, which you are taking away the future of Jamaica.
Raquel Porter reporting.
It's time for a break. Stay with us for stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. The Ministry of Education continues to promote its science, technology, engineering, and mathematics STEM learning across the island. Speaking at the recent STEM Day at Mannings High School in Westmoreland, Regional Director of the Ministry of Education, Skills and Youth, Michelle Pinnock, said the initiative aims to spread valuable information.
In a very informal yet formal way, introducing our young persons to STEM, getting them, encouraging them to recognize that in our everyday life, we're going to be very successful. We have to be thinking critically, we have to be creative, and we have to look to see how it is that we can integrate the science, the technology, the engineering, and of course, the mathematics.
STEM education is also seen as crucial preparing students for a technology-driven world.
Thing that we do, it's steeping our culture, so it's really bringing awareness to them and for them to embrace them and explore the careers that are available within STEM.
We are anticipating that even if the students are not necessarily sparked sometime before in the classroom, activities like this will give them some amount of innovation.
It's now time for the Business Minute.
Executive Director of the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, Kamisha Turner-Blake, is urging the government to provide affordable, accessible factory and warehouse space to support the expansion of the manufacturing sector. This would enable manufacturers to take advantage of tariffs on imported raw materials and inputs. Jamaica imported 90% of these materials annually. This contributes to a 1.8 billion import bill in the first 11 months of 2024, the country's highest after fuel and food imports. Further afield, Jaguar Land Rover, the British car maker, is halting shipments to the US for a month. This is due to President Trump's 25% tariffs on all imported cars. The tariffs, which took effect Thursday, prompted the automaker to pause shipments in April as it adjusts to the new trade terms. Despite this, a spokesperson emphasized that the US remains an important market for Jaguar Land Rover, which has over 200 dealerships across the country. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Raquel Porter.
Time now for the top regional and international stories.
In the region, SOS journalist Haiti is demanding the release of journalist Roger Claude Israel and his brother. The two were being held hostage after they were kidnapped by armed gangs in Mirabale. The gangs have also threatened the hostages in a video. SOS journalists highlighted the increasing violence in the area and called for stronger security measures. Gangs have been attempting to overthrow the government since the 2021 assassination of President Jovenel Moise. On the international scene, a second child has died from measles as an outbreak of the contagious virus continues to grow in western Texas. The child, who was not vaccinated, had no underlying health condition and was in hospital suffering complications from measles. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has faced a backlash over his handling of the outbreak, visited Texas yesterday in the wake of the death. The state reported more than 480 cases of measles this year as at April 4. This represents a jump from 420 earlier that week. The outbreak is reported to have extended to neighboring states. And those were the top regional and international stories.
We take another break. Sports is next.